I'm hoping that this is going to be short and that I'll get to the point really quickly. This video is going to be me going over some things from a couple of books that go along with the coming infrastructure change that's going to be brought out going into the B system. Most of these agendas are being pushed to happen somewhere from 2030 to 2035. Well, not happen, to be almost done being pushed somewhere from 2030 to 2035, and then also 2050. So, if you really want to understand this, I would advise you to watch my video that may or may not still be on YouTube, but it's on my, I think it was Rumble, and don't know what I titled it either. Haven't even been on my Rumble in a long time, to be honest. But it's about green building and green construction, and like how they want to have us living in hemp buildings, which is weed, and they want us living in tiny tech homes too. And they're trying to make it seem like they're doing this because the chemicals used in construction, especially modern construction, are really deadly, such as lead and asbestos, formaldehyde, BPA, which is also used in bottles too. So like microplastics, heavy metals, and also because the buildings aren't that sustainable, which honestly, I mean, I could get how people who don't really understand these agendas could go along with this, because I mean, the buildings really aren't that good, especially like in the West. People from Africa, they always say that like American buildings are really cheap, and they are because they're made out of wood. I even seen a comment where somebody was like, if you punch a wall in America, you leave holes in the walls. If you punch a wall in Africa, you break your arm. But what was I gonna say next? Oh yeah, so in that video that I was just mentioning where I talk about green construction, I also go over a book in that video that I had got, which was for teens that want to become engineers, and it talked about the different fields of engineering. So I go over the different fields that'll play a huge role in the B system technology and infrastructure, which that might be the title of the video, I think. But yeah, so I have this book, Green Construction, An Introduction to a Changing Industry by Allison Dykstra. And so this book pretty much goes into detail on some of the agendas that are being pushed. And then I was actually given this book. This book shows the different things that they're getting kids in universities in the West Coast do. Wait, what am I saying? Hold up, because I keep losing my train of thought. This book right here that someone gave to me shows that the university kids are like being pushed into thinking that this stuff will be a good thing, and overall it shows how like they're building tiny tech homes, which also goes into the whole zero net energy thing, which ties into the carbon footprint. And if you don't really understand the whole I don't know if I could say this, the warming globe agenda. All they're pretty much saying is that your hot breath is destroying the planet, so they need to get rid of you. And I would make that joke all the time throughout the years because that's really what they're saying. And it also has some eugenics racial stuff tied in, although of course they really want to get rid of everybody. But the eugenics racial side is tied in for many reasons, one being that, melanated people are highly carbonated people. And so that ties into the carbon footprint thing greatly. But of course, at the end of the day, they want all humans gone. I'm looking for some notes I took. Okay, so page 86, 2030 Zero Net Energy Challenge / 2030 Challenge, page 91. I'm trying to remember what book this was. I don't think this was this book, actually. I think it was this one. Oh, and also, you want to keep some of these companies in mind. You want to know who's doing what. And if I'm remembering right, this Energy Star company is also founded by IPA, where they partnered with them. It was one of those. Wait a minute, page 86. Oh, yes, this is the page. I don't know if I'm supposed to be looking at the top or I think the bottom. Energy Star certified building and industrial plants. Many readers will be familiar with the blue Energy Star label that is awarded to home appliances, such as washing machines and dryers that meet a certain energy efficiency baseline. See Chapter 5. Energy Star is also an energy rating program for residential and commercial buildings, developed by the U.S. Department of Energy and U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. And keep in mind, if you ever watch The Simpsons, which just like Gravity Falls is made by Freemasons who were just doing predictive programming. And you remember that Simpsons movie where they put the dome over the whole state or city or something like that, and the grandpa was yelling "Ipa." So keep that in mind. Now I'm trying to find my place. Energy Star focuses on energy performance. It does not evaluate the impact of other factors such as materials, indoor air quality, or recycling. The system compares the energy performance of a particular building to that of a national stock of similar buildings. Many state and municipal governments have adopted Energy Star as a minimum design and construction requirement for energy. And Energy Star homes are typically 20 to 30% more energy efficient than standard homes. Energy Star ratings are used as benchmarks for meeting the 2030 challenge, a call from the independent nonprofit organization Architecture 2030 to design and construction communities to commit that all new and renovated buildings will on average produce as much energy as they use, zero net energy by 2030. And then that kind of goes into something that I typed up in one of these, which pretty much goes into how the federal and state agencies want to get to zero by 2030. This may be it. Wait a minute. And then I typed up this. Zero net energy is the building's ability to produce the amount of energy or more than it needs to function and power amenities typically over the course of a year. The U.S. Department of Energy, DOE, set the standards and made the definition for zero net energy buildings. And that was done in like 2015, I'm pretty sure. And that's the thing. People think that the stuff being pushed is new. Nothing's ever new. People allow things to happen and allow agendas to be pushed over time. And then once the agenda fully manifests, then people are like, well, dang, I don't know what happened. I didn't know it was going to be this bad. Definition for zero net energy buildings. I think I read the whole sentence, but there is no single individual credited for creating the concept of zero net energy. The process of a building making the amount of energy it needs to function is done through renewable energy sources. And I'm going to link these websites that I mentioned. So this is going to be done with photovoltaic solar panels, geothermal heat pumps, wind turbines. Well, honestly, the geothermal thing, I don't know how popular that's going to be, but it seems like it's going to mostly be photovoltaic. I don't know why I sometimes pronounce that wrong, which is solar panels, wind turbines, maybe some hydropower, but I don't really think that's gonna be that common. So here, many federal and state agencies and even political groups are planning on passing laws for zero net energy infrastructure. Their goal is to quote unquote get to zero or no longer depend on the fossil fuel grid or fossil fuels in general by 2030 to 2050. And that's the thing. If you really think that these people care about your health and the planet, then it could sound good. But when you realize that this is about control and you're not going to be able to really do anything, you're only going to be able to shower at a certain time, if at all. Especially with the fact that a lot of things are about to happen in wars and stuff. So, I mean, it depends on exactly how things play out. But if the US really does get to have this little moment of pushing this stuff how they want to, it'll probably be a while after, or only for a little while. Wait, a while after the wars and stuff. And of course, the Civil War thing is going to happen sooner, way sooner than later, really soon. Or they're going to have their little time of pushing this stuff after a war, which would honestly make a little bit more sense because, like they say, it's easier for you to build a building. Wait, it's easier for you to make a green building or sustainable building from the get-go than to do a retrofit where you're trying to take out gas water heaters and stuff and change things. That's way harder to do. And that 2030 to 2050 thing, that's on the Department of Energy website, which I'm going to link all this stuff like I said. According to Doe, it supports the definition as a federal... No, wait, let me skip over some stuff. An article by Council on Foreign Relations mentions the political nationwide plan of greening the grid or decarbonizing the grid. CFR, Council on Foreign Relations. Okay, wait a minute, let me skip over that because that's just the website. Decarbonizing the grid or generating energy from renewable sources instead of fossil fuels is central to President Biden's quote-unquote climate goals. And I say quote-unquote for so many reasons. For one, there's so many different Bidens, and it's not even really just his goal. It's the higher-ups' goal in general. But of course, these puppets are made to seem like they're the ones calling the shots when they're barely even still alive, if really alive at all. Particularly his pledge to have, because that's kind of hard to pronounce, so am I aiming at it? Probably not visible, this camera's crappy. Have, so you can actually know what I'm saying. U.S. emissions from its 2005 level by 2030 and achieve a carbon-free power sector by 2035. About a quarter of U.S. greenhouse gas emissions come from burning fossil fuels for electricity. The power sector relies mainly on coal and natural gas. Okay, let me skip some more stuff because I mostly want to focus on main points. Wait a minute. States bills. Increases California's. I guess I'll read this. The California Energy Commission article states that California has passed Senate Bill 350, which states increases California's renewable electricity procurement goal from 33% by 2020 to 50% by 2030. There's plans to... Oh, this will probably be a good thing to read because this goes into the whole tech city thing. There's also plans to redesign the grid and make it electric, which will also coincide with the zero net energy renewable infrastructure. According to CFR, the U.S. Department of Energy has made building a smart grid, a national policy goal, stating it will use digital technology that allows for two-way communication between the utility and its customers, as well as sensing along transmission lines. That makes me think of that portal thing that they had in New York, where people could see from one side to the other. Well, see from New York to, what was that, Ireland or something? It was something like that. Because, like, I have some questions about the digital technology that allows for two-way communication between the utility and its customers. That sounds questionable and really, it sounds like walking on eggshells. Like you're going to have people popping up on some screen saying, why are you trying to turn your water on past the time you're supposed to, or something like that. Then this goes into the whole cyber risk and hacking bullcrap lies. They also state that President Biden has proposed major investments in modernizing the U.S. energy grid. The bipartisan infrastructure law he signed in November 2021 includes $65 billion for grid modernization, including new transmission lines, smart grid and clean energy technologies, and cybersecurity. And then the cybersecurity thing is mentioned more somewhere. According to the Council on Foreign Relations, experts say the grid is increasingly vulnerable to extreme weather events such as the February 2021 Texas winter storms, or they could talk about the heat waves and cyber attacks, or quote-unquote cyber attacks. Extreme weather events influenced by climate change and vulnerability to cyber attacks have raised concerns about the grid's reliability. Emissions from electricity generation are a substantial driver of climate change. And so, to go to the next thing, which is going to kind of be about the whole New World plan. Although they try to make it seem like they're just talking about how the grid needs to be remade because it was made in the 1880s and like times have changed, but of course they always mean more than what they say, but many people can't see that or don't want to. Had to make sure I was still recording and not on pause. Okay, so CFR Senior Alice C. Hill says, the problem is that the energy grid was designed for a world that no longer exists. And then I think that's kind of it from these papers I typed up. So yeah, now I'm gonna maybe look for something else from one of the books. Then there's this that where'd I find this at? Some, not rec center, but just like a public place for youth and really anybody to hang out at. This goes over some agendas, and I'm gonna read some of this. You'll probably be able to find this on some website or something. Maybe you have to Google this or this. Monterey County Community Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. And of course, I've only even been on the West Coast for a year or so. So I mean, it's not that I haven't heard of these agendas before, but it's still kind of new to me. And it's like people have been being brainwashed into certain things for so long on the West Coast openly. They're just used to hearing about it and they don't really think anything of it. The Emission Inventory. The Emissions Inventory is a record of unincorporated Monterey County's greenhouse gas emissions in 2019. It highlights the main sources of emissions and is essential for tracking progress and guiding actions to reduce them. So tracking progress of controlling people's lives and when they go where and who breathes when and who uses the bathroom how. Or who uses the bathroom and what. 39% on-road transportation, oh my gosh. 32% agriculture. So the food, and I guess that would include farming and like cows using the bathroom. 14% non-residential building energy. 7% residential building energy. 6% solid waste. 1% off-road vehicles and equipment. 1% wastewater treatment, and less than 1%. Wait a minute. Yeah, less than 1% water supply. So the water supply is letting off carbon. Okay, so then there's this 66% non-residential methane gas, 32% residential methane gas, 1% non-residential electricity, 1% residential electricity. And mind you, if this green construction, removing building chemical stuff was really about people's health, they wouldn't want people living in tiny tech home prisons where there's going to be all types of frequencies screwing up their development in their brain and throwing off like their neurotransmitters and even those of pets. They're not going to have you living in a microwave pretty much if they really cared about your health. Like if they really wanted to fix the emission issue and the chemical issue and people's health being bad because of building chemicals and also because of mold, which all buildings have mold. Although they really don't touch on that part. And mold toxicity is a really big issue that the mainstream medical system pretends doesn't exist, but I guess that's kind of another video topic. But if they really wanted all that fixed, they would just go back to mud huts. And ignore that because I kind of started choking in the mist. But, so, yeah, there's this. 91, or page 91, in the Green Construction book, 2030 Challenge. A call to the design and construction communities that all new and renovated buildings will be zero net energy by 2030. Energy Star, an energy rating program for residential and commercial buildings developed by the U.S. Department of Energy and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. And so I'm seeing this fossil fuel definition, and it kind of goes into what I was saying about how they want to get rid of pretty much anything with carbon as an element. Fossil fuels, non-renewable forms of energy that were formed hundreds of millions of years ago, and including coal, oil, and natural gas. Carbon is their basic element. And heavy metals. Metallic elements such as lead, mercury, and chromium, among others. Waterless toilets. Toilets including compost and toilets and urinals that use no water. But yeah, so pretty much they want people living in things like this. This one right here is actually bigger than most of the things that they say they want people in. In fact, I have something to say about the right side of left-right mind herding. The people on the right side of left-right mind herding are now following along with the whole tech city agenda, not just with the pre-planned concept of left-right city states, but also with the fact that those are going to be tech cities. And now, who was it? Elon Musk is claiming to be on the conservative side, and he doesn't even seem like the type of person to be conservative. It's so funny. But the people on the right side, left, right, mind, head, and they're flocking after Elon Musk. And he's like the forerunners of this whole tech agenda. It's honestly really funny. And then the people on the right are always saying, well, the left are the ones that are all into the climate thing. But they're all in it too. Well, that's how it goes, though. Two people in the same bull crap, or two groups of people in the same bull crap, following after the same puppets, the same agenda, in idolatry. One thinks that they're better than the other, smarter than the other, but they're both the same. In fact, here's one of the tiny tech homes with a Tesla Powerball, which is a battery for storing solar energy that's left over. So here's some manipulation. Making sure I'm on the right page. So I'm supposed to be reading something from page 4 and something from page 5 that really stuck out to me. Oh, here's the carbon footprint thing, if I can even say that. Zero net energy efficiency. Living on a small carbon footprint means less. Books these days have a lot of typos. Mean less area to heat. Coal illuminate. With the zero net energy code revisions coming online soon, we can greatly reduce our power demand by living in smaller spaces. Tiny houses that do not depend on the electrical grid have no